Let's continue with the review for major test. For number 3, the graph given are the same, but we need to figure out the value of PQR. If graph are the same, which means ABD are the same. So we figure out maximum value first. That's 4. Minimum value, that is negative 8. So we got A equals 4 minus negative 8 over 2. That's 6. For the D, we got 4 plus negative 8 over 2. That's negative 2. When you get the D, we need to draw the midline, y equals negative 2. So we got the negative 2 here. That's y equals negative 2. Then we go to period. Get 2 maximum value. Count the units between them. That's 4 times. Check the units. Each unit here is pi over 6 because you have 3 units between pi over 2. So you got pi over 2 over 3. You got pi over 6. We multiply by pi over 6. So we do 4 over 1 and get 4 pi over 6. That's 2 pi over 3. 2 pi over 3. Therefore, we can get B equals 2 pi over 2 pi over 3. Same numerator we can reduce. 3 jump up, we got 3. After we get the A, B, and a D, we need to figure out the C. For the C part, you need to analyze the pattern you are looking for. We know that this is the pattern. C is positive and a P is positive. That means the pattern must be positive sine pattern like this. And minus C is positive like x minus 5. That's moved to the right side. So you have to find the starting points on the right side, but pattern is a positive sine pattern. That's why I will sketch the graph like this. This is the starting point. This starting point, that's the pi over 6. Therefore, we got C equals pi over 6. Remember, the general transmission form for cosine or sine function will be y equals A sine. That's B x minus C. Then plus D. This is minus C. So we can use this pattern write down our equation. That will be y equals A here is 6. Sine. That's B will be 3. Then x minus pi over 6 minus 2. So we compare these two sine function. We can get the P equals 6. Q equals 3. C equals pi over 6. R equals negative 2. Let's go to B. Since graph exactly same, ABD is the same. That's A equals 6, B equals 3, and D equals -2. Only C is changing. So let's go to B. For the B part, we know P, Q, R are positive, but this part is the X plus C. Think about X plus 5. That means move to the left. Insider is a liar. Therefore, you have to get the pattern for positive sign because P is positive. Get this pattern, but your starting point is on the left side of y-axis. That's the left side. Therefore, we can get the pattern like this here. Then we could say this C equals -pi/2. Therefore, we can write down the equation y equals 6 sine 3 x plus pi/2, because we know that is x minus c, then minus 2. Therefore, compare these two functions. We got the P equals 6, Q equals 3, and C will be pi/2, and R equals -2. Now let's go to C. This time, C is positive. That means move to the left side, like x plus 5. That means move to the left side. And P is negative. That means negative sign pattern. It will be like this is the pattern. On the left side, you need to sketch the pattern is a negative sign pattern like this. Yeah, this is the pattern we will get. This point, that will be -pi/6. So we can write down the equation that will be y equals negative, because that's a negative pattern, 6 sine 3 x plus pi/6, then -2. So we got P equals -6, Q equals 3, C equals pi/6, and R equals -2. Now let's go to D. Still, A, B, D won't change, only C change. For this pattern, we know C equals 0, which means the starting point has to be on the y-axis. Yeah, let's draw this part. The pattern will be negative cosine x pattern. Therefore, we can write down y equals negative, because this is a negative cosine pattern, 6 cosine 3x minus 2. Then compare these two patterns. We got P equals -6, Q equals 3, R equals -2. Let's go to E. This time, P and C are positive. X minus 3, for example, let's move to the right side. P is positive means the pattern has to be positive cosine pattern like this. So we can sketch the graph on the right side. It's here. Your goal is get starting points. It doesn't have to be the whole cycle. Your starting point, this is pi over 6. This one will be 2 pi over 6. That's pi over 3. So starting point will be c equals pi over 3. Now I will write the function now. Y equals, this is a positive pattern, so 6 cosine. B is 3, x minus pi over 3, then minus 2. Therefore, we got P equals 6, Q equals 3, C equals pi over 3, and R equals negative 2. Let's go to F. For the F, P, C are positive. X plus a positive number like x plus 5. That means starting point has to be on the left side of y-axis. Since P is positive means a positive pattern for cosine. So we need to get the graph like this. This point will be your starting point. That is each unit is a pi over 6. We got 1 pi over 6, so this one is 2 pi over 6. We reduce, get the pi over 3. Don't forget negative. Now this is negative. So we got the C equals negative pi over 3. Then we can write down the function that is y equals 6 cosine 3 x plus pi over 3, then minus 2. Therefore, P equals 6, Q equals 3, C equals pi over 3, and R equals negative 2. For number 4, we still need to write down the sine or cosine pattern according to the given graph. So remember the first step, that's to figure out your maximum value and a minimum value. That is negative 2 for maximum and negative 8 for minimum. So that we can get the A equals negative 2 minus negative 8 over 2 equals 3. For D, we do negative 2 add negative 8 over 2. That's negative 5. So we need to draw the midline, that's y equals negative 5. The next step, we need to figure out the period. To maximum value, count the units. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 times. Check for each unit stand for how many pi. We got between pi over 2, we have 2 units. So pi over 2 over 2, that will be pi over 4. Therefore, this is a pi over 4. You will get 4 pi over 4 equals pi. So P equals pi. And we will get B equals 2 pi over P. That means equals 2. We already figured out that A and a D and also the B. We need to figure out that C. We need to analyze the given pattern. From this given pattern, we already know that C equals 0, which means the graph must be get started from y-axis. In other words, starting point from y-axis. So I sketch the graph like this. You know this is a negative sine x pattern. So when we use our pattern write down, we will get the y equals, here's negative. A is 3, so negative 3 sine. B is 2, so we got the 2x because C equals 0. Then D is negative 5, so minus 5. That's our equation. Then we compare with the given. We got the P equals negative 3, Q equals 2, and R equals negative 5. Since for B it's the same equation, therefore A, B, and D will be the same. Only C is changing. Therefore, check this pattern now. We know X minus C. C is positive, which means this will be moved to the right because X minus 5 or X minus 4 inside is a liar. And P is positive, means the pattern you have to get this pattern, positive cosine pattern. In other words, starting point on the right side of the axis and has to be positive cosine pattern. Therefore, I sketch over here. This is the starting points. This part is pi over 4. So we have 2 pi over 4, then 3 pi over 4. That's C equals 3 pi over 4. Therefore, we can write down our equation. That will be y equals 3 cosine 2 times x minus 3 pi over 4. Then minus 5. Compare these two cosine function. We got the P equals 3, Q equals 2, C equals 3 pi over 4, and R equals negative 5.